Hey everybody, my name is Vadim Medic, and this is 1:30 a.m. episode number one, and I am ecstatic beyond imagination to have my very best friend, a serial co-founder, as the guest number one forever and ever, my good friend Sajjad Ali Khoja. How are you doing today?
I am so honored. Number one, always.
Being number one
Man,
feels good, right?
yeah,
That's goal in life. So you made it. You're on the
yeah,
show.
second to none.
Second. How have you been, buddy? What's going on right now? How's your week? Obviously people that are watching right now can probably guess that it's a Christmas season. A lot of lights. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a next level. So what's going on, man? How are you keeping up with the shopping at a time when you cannot physically walk up to the store and
Yeah.
buy something at the last minute?
Yo, my best friend, Amazon. My Alexa is probably gonna go off, and it went off. That's honestly, I've been spending way too much money on Amazon, and I've been asking for people to give me gift cards, Amazon gift cards, so I can buy other people's stuff. That's way too much money on Amazon. That's pretty much it.
Well, good, because I'm invested. I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm happy that stock is going up because of people
Yeah.
like you. No, seriously, no, man. Thank you for joining.
Man.
And, yeah, the title of this episode, I thought, would be a really good way to
Hmm.
start, and the kind of like the set up the foundation for this ongoing conversation is really discuss the successes, but also discuss the failures, things that I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of people are not talking about. Obviously, you and I go way back. I mean, we've known each other since 2013. I probably don't have another
Yeah.
person in my life that I've known for as long as I've known you, and since coming to Canada. So definitely couldn't think
Yeah.
about a better person to have and test pilot this show with me, 1:30 a.m. The show about what keeps us entrepreneurs up at night, hence the name 1:30 a.m. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, dude, I just want to ask you, like,
Yeah.
what's the earliest thing? And obviously, like, let's start by
Hmm.
you introducing yourself properly and tell me
Hmm.
and the audience about who the hell you are and
Yeah.
how you got here in sort of like 2 to 3 minute summary of yourself. Go.
Okay. This is a lot. Okay. So I'm an immigrant as well. um, an entrepreneur. Started a lot of companies. Failed way too many times. Um, I think mostly I've done a lot of companies in real estate, we can say. Shit ton of companies in real estate and the finance side of it. Um, and right now I've started a company called Onlus, which is more towards home health care. Because of COVID, we thought it would
Obviously.
be a great time to, especially because you know what's happening in healthcare right now with seniors and whatnot. So it's nice to kind of get into that and help out, because that's what I've been doing since I was a little kid, just volunteering, whether it was at mosque or just community. And right now to give back, and that's the best thing I can do right now.
So you're a serial entrepreneur. Were you always this entrepreneurial? Have you always kind of leaned towards starting businesses
Hmm.
rather than joining businesses? I mean, what sort of got you
Hmm.
into get sort of giving up the safety and
Yeah.
trying your best at disrupting the world one way or the other?
Hmm. I think it was in high school when one of my teachers went like, I can never see you working for someone because you're not that type of a person. You have your own way about things, and I never understood what he meant at the time. But looking back at it, he knew I would be an entrepreneur, and I talked to him after multiple times, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm expecting you to come back and say how much you've grown."
When was the
Right?
last time you talked to him?
It's been a couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I would say a year and a half
Okay,
because
well,
of
since we
COVID.
started multiple companies together to what we're going
Yeah.
to get into eventually, but okay, and so you came
Yeah.
back and he was blown away, or was that still sort of, you kind of haven't figured that out, and so you were still kind of work in progress to him And what was his reaction when you told him your story at that time?
I think it's always a work in progress. Because there's so much I want to do, and I can never say that I've reached the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that at that point, like what's the point, right? So we've always thought that, we're a work in progress, almost there, never there. But as long as the point of this podcast is all about failing. So as long as you fail and learn and move on, that's the best thing, right?
So you had a chat with him, and
Hmm.
were you like, holy shit, I've done so much since school, and I haven't even realized? Because like when I go back and I like reconnect with people
Yeah.
I haven't talked to for in a long time, you know, right away I get those memories about the kind of person I was. Like I wasn't the best
Hmm.
person in high school. Like I mean, I was
Oh yeah.
complete dick to people, but they were dicks to me too. So I guess those warranted. But I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like when you just can't,
Yeah, yeah.
when you just like you don't seem to find the common
Hmm.
wavelength. So you're like, whatever, right? And
Yeah,
everybody's too
yeah.
cool to understand each other. So I'm like, fine, like I'll prove you wrong in real life.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did you
That,
how did you feel about that encounter?
um, well, I sucked at school. I had a learning disability, and school was like the worst part of my life, and I just couldn't wait for that part of my life to be over because I knew I had really good EQ and street knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
right? I knew how to make money. I knew how to not get A's, but I knew how to turn ones
Get
into
by,
hundreds,
yeah, get by.
right? Um, so so yeah, I think what we would also invest, right? Like I got into investing because I loved seeing how money grows. I
Yeah.
loved watching numbers grow. And I mean, like, even though I had a learning disability, um, I had multiple math awards as well in York Region, which is really hard to do here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, I think it was all about, I was just trying to get to real life and, just wanted school to be done with because I absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
One of the worst students, barely got by in school, but I knew how to get by in real life. I knew how to be successful, and I was looking back, I was just a dumb kid. Like I didn't know anything, and I learned from falling face first, and that's the it might be really bad, but like that's the way I learned, you know.
What's the earliest indication of you in those days when you're like, I'm an entrepreneur? Like maybe that word wasn't around because people look
Yeah.
down on entrepreneurs as like, oh, so you don't have a
Hmm.
job kind of thing, you know? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remember having those embarrassing conversations too, how like to explain. Nevertheless, but like, what's
Mhm.
the earliest indication? Sorry, that like whether that you selling something to somebody that they didn't want. Because I'll give you an
Mhm.
example from my personal life. I remember we just had phones came out which had like color phones, right? So it was like a screen
Yeah.
of this size, right? And they were color phones, so like not black and white Motorola, like blue and black, or you know what I'm talking about. Like we
Yeah.
had these weird phones, and these were like the first phones that had 32 kilobyte games, and you could go and download a game for like Nokia or
Hmm.
Samsung, and those were like ugly, small, tiny phones, and like you had to plug them into your computer and like download the game. And then what I remember is I used to sell those games to other kids. Like I used to come to
Hmm.
school and I would show everybody the newest game that I found, and then everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh, and those were the days before Bluetooth existed. So we used infrared ports. Like you have to hold two phones together
Yeah.
for like about 5 to 10 minutes, and you could transmit a game to a friend. And I remember charging people for like phone game. They're not like, it was ridiculous. I used to charge like $10 a game, $20 a game, and then
Hmm.
parents would come to school and complain to my parents, and they were
Oh
like,
my God.
"Whoa." I didn't even know, but my parents told me later they had to reimburse other parents' money, but they never took money away from me. So in my mind, I was a successful
Damn.
entrepreneur,
Uh-huh.
go getting by and like making lots of money, but I had no idea until years later that my parents had to reimburse other very unhappy parents for that experience. And so people used to complain about me, but that's like how I realized that I can sort of, not necessarily stick with the system and then get a job. Like I had that natural curiosity to figure out the arbitrage between what people wanted versus they had access to, and what if you were early on and you knew something that other people don't or other kids didn't, which that grade very few actually knew about technology and how to download and transfer video games. I could make money. But like, what's your story that sort of told you that you're not just another regular person, but you got something in you?
Yeah, I think in like middle school or elementary school, it would be all about Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And
were they like a rectangular ones or like a square ones? Because I had lots of round ones, or because I had lots of like round ones.
Rectangular ones. Like now my brother collects, but before I used to sell and collect both Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards and Beyblades and those so much. Do you know what Beyblades are?
No.
No, okay. They're like this round top thing that just spins, and you would have like a bowl, which is like your arena, and you would drop the Beyblades in, and it's spinning, and it's almost like a spinner, and it's basically fighting each other, and that was like the cool thing. So it was that, and I would also say the fact that I wanted to learn, but I could never learn in school, right? Just the way they taught. So I needed to figure out my learning style, right? And the fact that I figured out my learning style, and we learned how to code in what, 6 months?
6 months.
And
still can't believe, by the way, it still looks surreal to me talking about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like we learned how to code proper. It's not just like a cart, but like proper platform, which we showed at Mars, right? Like in 6 months, going from not knowing anything. And I would go back to my fiance now, who is CS in Waterloo. She's gonna hate me for saying this, but like I was better than her at that point.
Yeah. Those kids have no clue. Those kids have no clue. Yeah.
And it was just like, damn, Waterloo is number one, like or the top 3.
If you're thinking about computer science place to go, Waterloo. Like I remember we had Zane. Promise not gonna name any names, but we had Zane, and this kid from this other university here in Toronto was going to be our CTO. And but see, like when he left, like we're gonna get to that story, him leaving, and like how two of us non-CS kids had to build a platform in less than a week. Like to me, these are the biggest life-changing motivational sort of moments where you step it up or you go home. Like those types of moments, and this is the reason why I love entrepreneurship a lot, is because you really get to shine to the biggest of your capabilities. Will you learn JavaScript in less than a week, or do you accept the defeat? And I am not the kind of person. I know you're not the kind of person to accept the defeat. So obviously we had to learn the hard way. But okay, and so
that was like a waking up moment where it was just like, okay, we have something different in us, because we can actually in 6 months learn how to code and build something real which people can actually use, right? And we can get into, at the time, Mars, right? Even though, granted, our website was a bit faulty. If you remember,
you click one thing and one thing too many, and all of a sudden, or I remember there was like a sequence of actions you had to take, and that was the only way it's gonna work. And if you click one button somewhere in the middle, it just wouldn't. But I was so proud to have that. And I remember 5 minutes before a call, we were deploying code, and it was like, what do you mean it's not working? And then on the call, this guy just like, oh, I checked out your platform.
First question.
Your first question, and it's like, so is it working, or you guys have some technical difficulties? And I was like, fuck, what is going on?
Man,
and remember what we said?
Yeah.
Or like,
we
Well,
just said it's working.
it's
Like we
working,
had all the
right?
confidence. Yeah, we
And
had
he's
all the
like, okay.
confidence. Yeah, and but that was like the moment where I was just like, damn, like we can do anything we set our minds to. Like,
Yeah,
it was a very Elon Musk moment for me. It was just like, okay, if I want to build a rocket ship tomorrow, I can. Like, going from not knowing a lick of JavaScript or
yeah.
HTML to fully building out a platform.
You,
That
you
was
know,
that
you know
was
what I tell a
insane.
lot of people? I tell, and
Hmm.
obviously, like my girlfriend is probably on the receiving end of this way too many times. She's like, okay, there you are again. But I keep telling people, they're like, I'm dangerous because I can do whatever the fuck I want, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not because I went to business school and I've met all these people and I know how
Hmm.
to, appraise houses, and all of a sudden I'm doing that for 10 years and I'm the best appraisal in the city.
Yeah.
The what I realized very early on is that I don't need to have any background, and the learning ability alone, meaning that if we want to learn UX UI, we can. If we want to learn coding, we
Yeah.
can. If we want to learn sales, we can. Like that sheer
Mhm.
ability to pick up stuff on the go in a short period of time and apply it on the same level that most of the people apply it on after going and practicing that for 4, 5, 10 years, just set us
Yeah.
apart. Just set us apart, set me apart.
Yeah.
I'm still in every time like I'm applying somewhere, they're like, "Oh, what sets you apart from other people?" I'm like, "Let me tell you,
Yeah. Right.
I can do
That's
your job better than you in 2 weeks if I want to." That didn't help me get into a lot of places, but that's where
yeah.
that's when emotional intelligence comes in.
That's true.
Oh
That's
God.
true.
So
But you're
okay.
on top of the world, right?
Well,
Like
that's how you
when you
feel.
do
Well,
that.
you
Yeah.
almost feel invincible, right? Like
Hmm.
you know that when somebody shits on you, you're like, how come? Like, I remember this a quote from Peter Diamandis trying to get
Hmm.
the. I don't remember exactly what he was trying to do, but he was getting a lot of rejections, and I remember reading in the book about him basically saying in response, you'll retire before I give up, right? And like, and
True.
that struck such a strong chord with me because I'm like, if you come to this world with the mindset like it's like the obstacles are overcomable, like you can figure it out, right?
Hmm.
Given enough effort, given that's what excites me about entrepreneurship. It's not clear black and white. It's not like
Yeah.
if you're a lawyer and you need to follow certain laws, or if you're doing healthcare research and like you need a bunch of like in entrepreneurship, you can figure stuff out, and that playing chess,
Right.
approach to strategy and figuring out short term versus long term, like that's something that
Mhm.
appealed to me. I want to take this conversation back to
Yeah.
when we've met, and it was 2013.
Sure.
We were both studying at
Hmm.
this college together. Yeah, I know, I know,
Yeah.
I know. But
The one shall not be named.
one shall not be named. Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
remember? Like, what's your like when people ask you about, because I know my answer, but
Mhm.
I want to know, like I want to hear your answer. Like when
It's
people
probably
ask
the same answer.
what do you remember from college? Like what are some of the things that stand out to you?
Um, Sitting in the library, skipping class, investing,
Investing.
and
I was going to say the same
Pierre
thing.
Yoon.
Yeah, okay. Pierre Ewing aside, an amazing professor, by the way, very genuine, very genuine.
Yeah.
Um, I still can't believe that my answer to that question is the same as yours, which is
Yeah,
I don't remember much other than sitting in the library trading stocks.
exactly.
Somehow
That's
that was like the only reason we would ever come to Seneca is, oh, I
is to
named
sit there and
is to sit there.
bleep that out, bleep that out. But no, that was, I think I learned so much about trading because I already traded since probably grade 10,
Yeah.
right? And then 11, 12, and then
What's your first
got
trade?
into,
What's the first trade you've ever made that you remember?
oh shit. Yeah. Probably Apple. If
Apple?
Yeah, probably Apple. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Was it like a
Um,
trial run, or you had some sort of strategy where you anticipated it to double in the next year? Or were you just like, let me just try it out what it feels like to actually buy a stock and see that confirmation
yeah,
come?
it was my first one, and like at the time I knew what I was doing, but I really had no idea what I was doing, right? I'm pretty sure it was Apple, and it was just me making money from selling all these cards and whatnot, and um, basically putting that into investments, right? And it was I would legit walk around with a small little laptop in my
Mhm.
hand in high school with the ticker going on my laptop
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know I had no idea what I was doing, but it was fun. It was fun to learn. It was nice to learn. Um, but damn, if I tell you, I made a shit ton of money from investing.
You probably lost a lot of money. I know I did. That was crazy learning
Yeah.
experience.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Like
And
I've
we'll get
lost a ton of
we'll
money.
get to it. But
Yeah.
so you being in high school, I'm
hmm
sure you had to get your parents to like sign off on your accounts because I know I couldn't open it
hmm
until I was what 18,
Yeah.
19. Like it was very
hmm
black and white. So you were like convincing what your parents to like it's okay, like let me do it and like I'll just put all this money and
hmm
hopefully it's gonna work out. And
Yeah,
did
they had to co-sign for me.
and did they know what they were co-signing for? I mean, have they ever
Oh,
invested in anything or
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, like when you're here, like you invest in RSPs and mutual funds and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, like they knew and they knew I wanted to learn because like I said before, I really like seeing money grow. I really like seeing numbers grow, and
Hmm.
that's what keeps me up at night sometimes. One
That
of my
was your
passions.
1:30 a.m.
Yeah, one of my passions. So, yeah, I mean, they knew what I was getting into, and they wanted me to learn. So I'm blessed in that way.
Hmm. Hmm. And then you're getting into college and you're like, okay, like I know enough about
hmm
this because I
Yeah,
remember like we were doing that um almost like full time. Like we would come there at like 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. Like we would sit there all
yeah,
the way until the markets closed at 4.
yeah.
And I think that's when both of us kind of bounced because like there was nothing else. Let's just go home and get ready for another day. I mean, did you have any other
Pretty
jobs
much.
along the way, or like is there any other supplements
hmm
of income, or was that purely like
Yeah.
investing?
I started a company called Muskoka Pure Water with one of my friends.
Yeah.
Um, and that was basically us lugging those big jugs of water and the 5 gallon water bottles.
Hmm.
And we were selling those and water filters. And we had huge clients. It was really good. Um, but that's kind of also what got me through college and paid my bills. Um, and that was kind of like my first business that I really got into.
Hmm.
Um, that was it was an interesting learning. We failed a lot with huge clients, which was really bad, but it needed to be done. When we first got the company, I had a huge contract, and we weren't ready for that contract because we were so young. There was no way we could um, there was no way we could basically support that client, right? We had to buy a lot of materials. We had to ramp up our production, um, but at the same time, like we miscalculated because we were so young and stretched so thin that we lost that client fairly quickly, and we started to understand that it's not about just bringing on clients, but it's also about properly
Hmm.
supporting them and making sure they're good and whatnot, and making sure that um, we can actually deliver the product and the promise that we gave them, right? And so what ended up happening was we had all this material. We bought bottles, we bought a van, we bought a lot of different materials, and it was just then sitting there because we lost such a huge client, right? And that was like the first. It was right out of the bat, like a slap in the face. like, what are you doing? You know, but it was a good learning because it was part of the learning curve. And from there, like, we had huge successes, right? We got huge clients. It's still an active company right now.
Yeah,
It's still
yeah,
doing
yeah.
amazing
What was
and
going
still
through your
helping out.
mind? What was going through your
Hmm.
mind when you were failing that first big client? Were you thinking, shit, I'm never gonna get another shot at it? Like, if this is the best it's gonna get, or were
Hmm.
you comfortable that you'll be able to turn that around and eventually get them back?
My mindset wasn't on like, oh, let's go stand outside their door and make sure they take us back. It was more so of like, okay, it was pretty easy to get them, and these are the processes that we went through. So now we understand that, you know, to get from A to B, these are the things we need to do, and these are the steps that we should as a business take so that we're more risk averse. All these things came into play, and I swear if we never went through that, we would have no idea, and doing it at a later stage would have been much worse. Um, because then we would actually have like proper equity in the company, and we like it would have just been worse, right? Doing what we did at the time we did, thank God, like, you know, I don't mind failing as long as we learn from it. And it was pretty easy to get that company. So it was more so of like, okay, and if we can actually get more companies which are around there at least, right? Because we knew they needed water.
And you, from what I
Yeah.
remember, that's around the time when you completely disappeared from college. I mean, I think 2 years in, like, I
Yeah.
lost track of you, and like I all of a sudden you
Mhm.
weren't in the class, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what happened to this guy? And like I know a little bit about, you know, what was going on behind the
Mhm.
scenes, but sounds like you
Yeah.
decided to fully commit to the startup, and
Yeah.
you realized that that was a bigger
Mhm.
opportunity than just continue studying and hopefully one day get a
Mhm.
job. Like, what was
Yeah.
motivating your decision to
The money.
instead of losing
No,
money, you were making
yeah,
money. Makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, what else?
Instead of a depreciating asset, you know. It was fun because, you know, we were two young kids who got into a business and it was making money, it was doing good. Um, and I realized that, you know, I could finish college more so. When I say part time, it's still considered full time for like a lot of people, but
Yeah,
you know
40 hours
what
is
I
part
mean
time
by
to
that.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So it was more so like I could do everything from home basically. I can take online classes. I can there was also Markham campus, so like I I could figure out a lot of different stuff to make sure that I devote my time to the business, but at the same time, like fairly get by
Hmm.
with with education because again, like I hated it. I was already dreading when I was there, and it was all about trying to figure out how to escape and try to do it extremely quickly, right? So, yeah, it was basically that. It was seeing the company growing. Um, it was it was seeing the successes and learning. I learned more probably in the 1 month of running that company than I did
By
my
doing than by reading,
by
basically. Hmm.
yeah, going to college really. The two years that I went to college. Like,
Even though we were both studying
yeah,
business, it didn't really teach us any real life business application. And that's kind of like the
no.
underlying theme of like everything that's going on right now. You know,
Hmm.
the entrenched belief that you need to go to college in order to succeed in life.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't
Hmm.
disagree more with that notion.
So see, I'm having these conversations a lot, and for business and computer science, like I agree, like going to college and paying hundreds of thousands of
Right.
dollars to
If
do
you're a
so.
doctor or, you know,
If you're a
a
doctor, yeah,
lawyer, and
exactly.
you got it. But for the most
Yeah, that.
people that, you know, just want a job, or they just, you know,
Mhm,
sort of think that there is no jobs available to people that haven't graduated, and then there's all the jobs available to people that have graduated.
mhm,
Like, I think, you know, the community needs to really realize that it's not really the case. And more importantly,
Yeah.
going into 2021, it's going to be about skills, man, not about your education diploma that you get at the end.
Yeah.
It's going to be about skills,
Yeah.
whether
Like,
you.
it's more so of like, would you rather have somebody who's really scrappy and gets the work done, or do you want a robot that you need to give a checklist to? Not saying that, if you get an education, that's what you are, but like, that's really, if you look at the workforce, that's what they're hoping to do, is give you a checklist and, let you just do your thing. But when you go into the startup, it's almost like, okay, how scrappy are you? Like, can you get this done within a certain amount of time frame? And um, you really need to have some street knowledge, quote unquote street knowledge,
Yeah,
and that experience to really do so, right? Like
yeah.
that stuff is hard,
And
right?
at the same time, I was busy appeasing my parents because as an immigrant,
Mm,
like they put all, every penny into me coming to Canada. Like, first of all, I had to immigrate, so I had to certainly have a job that qualifies for immigration. That's another story. But I
mm-hmm.
remember that day when I was working on Bay Street in investment, sort of like wealth management, and really set from a perspective of your sort of like graduate person. Like i
Yeah,
had i had jobs way better than any other person from my class at that time, and I was really sort of proud of
yeah,
it. Definitely my parents were. But I clearly remember like standing in this very room, looking outside of the window and just realizing I am playing a game that I'm not passionate about. It's like, you're always,
yeah,
there is something inside of you that drives you, and you're competing just for the sake of competing, or participating just for the sake of participating. It's like watching a movie that you don't like, but you just kind of have to
yeah.
finish it for whatever reason because you already paid $10 for the ticket. So like, I know you're laughing, but um, but I remember, and
Um,
that's around the time when I reached out to you, and I think it was around 2015
yeah,
when we got back together,
yeah.
and you told me everything that you just shared with the audience, and like we
Mm-hmm.
decided to do what we wanted to open a co-working space. You remember that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Co-working space. Before WeWork came in, and before co-working was a huge thing,
Yeah,
and I always found that fascinating. We always went into different areas where, it wasn't a big thing, like especially prop tech. Like prop
yeah.
tech was
Real estate
nothing, and now
technology.
it's like
Yeah, now it's the
yeah,
buzzword,
now
but
it's like a huge, huge thing. Yeah, and yeah, that's the thing. We were always in it before it was cool, so I always hold that.
yeah, yeah. Well, believe
Yeah,
in yourself, right? Like believe in your gut. That tells you that that's something that's worth pursuing, because a lot
yeah,
of people just gonna jump on what's already hot, and we were like, wait a minute, there's definitely an opportunity here, even though nobody was doing it. We were fully convinced. We didn't, we didn't pursue that idea with
yeah,
co-working space. It was way too expensive. And at the end of the day, I think it was the risk that was involved that didn't let us, but we
mhm,
did something else. We did something better. We realized that the
yeah.
future is in the software, not in the hard assets. That's when
That is true.
we taught ourselves how to code.
I mean, that was a good thing, hindsight, because what there were a couple companies already in Toronto that started having a monopoly, and then all of a sudden you heard WeWork is coming in,
Yeah.
and oh my God, I so lucky we didn't get into that, because we would still be, especially right now.
No, I'm just showing you the
I don't have a
WeWork
class.
souvenir that I have.
um, but yeah, I mean, like, and especially with COVID, like we'd be so fucked right now. So,
That's true.
whatever happened, I believe whatever happens for a reason. So that was a huge savior for us.
Do you think now is a good time to invest in co-working if you had next 10 years to sort of
Hmm.
recoup that investment? Do you think now is a good time to open up a couple of physical spaces, or do you think that the work will just never be the same and people will probably just stay at home, with some sort of a work from home plus some sort of a hoteling or conference rooms or things like that?
Yeah. So I think work from home and hoteling will be a thing for a while now. But if you're saying 10 years, I would I would like to actually own the building versus leasing it and then
Mm,
subleasing it out. You know, that's I would actually, if you're owning the building, I think that's where I would really put my time into now.
so you don't think like physical
Yeah.
real estate is going away, even though the use of it may change, like the actual building
Yeah,
is
yeah, the use
still.
of it will change, yeah, for sure. But I mean, like having that office and showing your clients how big you are, you know, all that stuff, like that's still gonna be around, right? Like there's no way that's going away. Especially look at Apple and Google, they've built their campuses. They're not just gonna tear it down, right? So the work environment is gonna obviously change. Um, and people are realizing that working from home is better and you can work longer because you don't have to be stuck in traffic. Mental health is better for
Mm,
some in some cases. Um, so I feel like yeah, it'll be like a hybrid with in office versus at home. Um, but I don't think anything's going to disappear though.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised.
Let's talk about the failures, right? Let's
Hmm.
over the
Yeah.
next 5 years from that point on when we were
Hmm.
starting our first company, and yeah, we had, to summarize everything that happens at the time, two business kids, that skipped
Hmm.
most of the college classes, decided to do a tech business, and had a
Yeah.
third co-founder that left at the 11th hour because he wasn't happy with the equity. So what did we do? We taught ourselves how to code, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Of course, that business didn't quite work out, the same way we hoped for, but that set us up for the following 5 years, which is when people now started coming to us and said, "You've got a pretty valuable skill set in terms of technology and marketplaces, and just
Hmm.
understanding the dynamics of startups and businesses."
Hmm.
And so we were part, or we co-founded, or we
Yeah.
were part of multiple ventures 5 years following that,
Hmm.
thinking about the co-working space. What are sort of the themes, or sort of the like lessons that you're taking away from that
Yeah.
following 5 years? So that was between 2015 and late sort of 2019, when we were actively pursuing lots and lots of different business ideas, ranging from esports and mortgage tech and
Yeah.
real estate tech, and just venture
Hmm.
capital tech, and what are some of the things that you're taking away? Because I really really want to get that across, that
Hmm.
entrepreneurship and success isn't built on day one. I mean, we both have
Yeah.
5 years of scars and negative experience to show for whatever is happening to us right now, which we'll get to later
Right.
on. But how are you sort of thinking about the past 4 to 5 years?
I think if I can put it, our biggest fuck up was with CoSquare sitting down for 6 months and just coding away and realizing that, this wasn't a need and we had to scrap everything. And we were thick-headed when people were telling us, hey, go out and actually talk to people. And we were just like, no, fuck you. Like, we know our shit. Um, and we assumed a lot, right? So I never want to go through that because I I don't think you realize, but during that time, I had probably like couple hours of sleep every night because we were just coding away, and I would be at work at probably 6:30, right, and I would get back at home on the last bus at 1:30 a.m., right? So basically it was just okay, get some sleep, shower, back on the train in the morning, right? And it was very gut wrenching when everybody was just like, what is this? Like this is not a need, right? So I never want to do that again. I think that was like one of the worst times in my life, but I learned a lot. I'm so thankful for that moment. Um, that was the best thing that could ever happen to me because now it's all about me trying to learn what other people are going through, not assuming too much. I have a pen in my hand right now because we learned, write shit down.
Write shit down.
Yeah, so it's yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's just like it's just that learning experience. Like I said, I sometimes you have to learn from, just falling face first into a pile of shit.
Mhm.
And I mean, like, I'm better for it. I can really now understand what people are looking for, what people are asking, what they're going through, like what solutions can I bring to the table, like all that stuff. Like I don't think I would be able to, because that stuff is experience. You can't read that in a book, right? Um, so that's super valuable. Um, so
Because I remember, like, we were always about
mm,
pure hours, right? Like, you're right. Like, we would
yeah,
get there first thing in the morning and leave last thing at night. And like, we used to make fun of people that used to leave at 4 or 5 o'clock.
hmm, yeah,
And to me, like, it was a no-brainer because that's the only thing you can sort of control is the
yeah,
sheer number of hours you're putting into it. And
yeah,
I remember we did amazingly well before important deadlines. Like if we had a client presentation or we had
yeah,
an application due or like a demo day, we were just hustling around the clock and barely had any sleep. Like I remember when we pitched to Real Ventures and we had that video about Google
yeah.
search and like we're gonna get back to you, and I'm actually gonna link that up if I can find that video. I'm
Oh
gonna
my
totally
God.
link it up. I love it. I love it how
Yeah.
we just kind of scrappily put that together in like a Windows movie maker, and like we're ready to go. But like
Oh man.
I just remember like that night we probably printed everything out and left, and I don't
Yeah.
even remember how I got home. And I remember
I
our pitch was first thing in the morning, and so we were there.
I barely made it to the last bus that night. I
Shit,
almost got stuck in downtown that night.
shit.
But see that's like the fun parts, you know. That's the parts that I look back to and I'm just like, damn, like we did all that shit. Um, but yeah, no, we would we we got kicked out of I'm forgetting the name,
I
but it
boost.
was the co-working space, yes, iBoost, because they thought we were living there, right? Like we legit thought
They
we were
couldn't
living
believe
there,
that we're last people out, first people in. Like to them, it just didn't
right?
compute, right? Like they were so suspicious of like, what the
Y-
hell are you guys
Yeah,
running like an
you
illegal
weren't there.
operation?
Yeah, you weren't there, but one of the managers came up to me and was just like, I have stayed back all the way until 8 p.m. just to see when you go home. And I had to leave because my wife was calling me and you were still there. Like, where is your bed? Like, where are you sleeping? I was just like, I go home. Like, trust me, I go home. But yeah, we got kicked out because
But
we
that's it,
were
right? Like
sleeping
that
there. It
that
was
just
too much
underlines
fun.
that just underlines like for me that
Hmm.
represents 2015, 2016. I think that's when we were kind of doing that period in our lives when we
Yeah.
were just like putting our head down and working. And don't forget that was like the first real business like in the software that we were doing.
Hmm.
And so all we really had was Elon Musk's word that working 200 120 hours a week was the way to go. And
Yeah.
like I wouldn't even have it any other way. But to me, no matter how bad it was still a time when, in retrospect, I've learned the most. For me
Yeah.
personally, like that was the time when we learned programming in 6 months. That was the time when we went from no business startup experience to like all kinds of marketing and sales and partnerships and reaching out and cold. I mean, who would have thought that two kids like us at that time in 20, 21, 22 were like going out and getting meetings with like directors at like Oxford and Brookfield, and like remember those meetings that we used to have?
Yeah.
They were like
Yeah.
crazy people, like people that are impossible to get to if you're just in the industry, you're trying to score a coffee meeting.
Hmm.
And we had these people becoming
Yeah.
our advisors, or
Yeah.
available to us if we needed that support, because of the sheer hustle and dedication and just
Yeah.
the audacity that we had just to kind of show up there and like pitch on everything that needed
Yeah.
to change.
Yeah. And people would ask us like, how did you even figure out to get a meeting with me? Like, how did you do it? Because like my schedule is booked till like whatever, right? And oh, damn, like we would figure out ways. Like that's what it is. It's all about being scrappy. How scrappy can you be to make sure your business takes off? And we would have never learned that, if we didn't have our backs against the wall. And
Yeah.
you know, um, people say failure wasn't an option, but like we were trying to fail, really trying not to fail, but failing successfully to basically figure out, you know, how to go about things, how to make sure that we never do that again, how to make sure that, how to basically grow, really, not just business wise, but also like personally, right, professional wise. Um, and that was like, yeah, that was the best years of my life where I actually learned so much. Would I ever do it again? No, once in a lifetime thing. That's
Yeah.
that's it,
Yeah.
right? But I would so tell other people to do it though, because learning your limits and figuring out um how far you can stretch yourself. Because if you told me when I was little that, hey, you're gonna learn programming in 6 months, I would be like, people
Get out of
go
here.
to school for
Yeah.
like four,
For
five,
years.
6 years, right? And they don't, like, they know a lot, but like they don't know how to properly code, right? How to properly make a platform. But if you told me that, hey, you're going to make a platform that, you know, with Connect, like what, $8 billion worth of of portfolios on the platform, and
Yeah.
it's just mind-boggling,
Well,
right? Like,
let's talk about it. So
hmm,
Connect is the mortgage marketplace that you and I joined. It wasn't our idea, but we did get
yeah,
approached by an older gentleman that showed promise, and we bought into it.
hmm,
We spent maybe about a year and a half on that. I mean, in hindsight, that was the biggest learning experience to me. You know why? Because
oh
I
man,
finally realized
okay.
that I needed to believe in myself. Like, let's talk about it. What's
Hmm.
going through your mind when people ask you about Connect? And then I'll give my 10 cents.
Um, we had the perfect team on paper, like the perfect team on paper. It was meant to be huge, but I really realized, just because you have a good team that has experience and that has knowledge and has done it before, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a home run right out of the gates, right? Like, we had a lot of people leaving, a lot of people joining,
Slacking off.
a lot of ups and downs, right? Like, we were supposed to be the least experienced, us two. We were the youngest and the least experienced
On
on
paper.
paper,
Right.
on paper, right? But everything we said from day one, um, we were we were basically, just shut down. But 6 months later, they would have been like, "Oh shit, yeah, we should do this now. We realize we should do this." And that kind of woke me up to like, okay, you're right. Like, we need to have confidence in ourselves, because what we're saying is actually true, right? Because these people that are so much older, that have run huge companies before, we're telling them what to do, and we're the right ones. So like, it came
because
down
running
to,
because running a conglomerate is different than running a startup, and when you have all the resources
yes,
available to you and a bunch of people working for you, it's very easy to feel like you're making progress, even though maybe nothing really
hmm,
is dependent on you as much as on the existing system that's in place. But in the
yeah,
startup, if you're not doing marketing, your entire startup isn't doing marketing.
yeah, like, there's no systems in place, and you need to do so much work to figure out how to grow at the same time as having some systems down, making sure you have like a proper checklist, and doing sales and marketing, and at the same time doing accounting and whatever else there needs to be. Like, it's it's insane amount of work, and you can't just throw money on it. Like, you're basically, you're stripped down to the point where even the most littlest action, or non-action has a huge impact
Right.
on your company, right? Like if you choose not to work on a Monday,
Your
that
company
sucks.
is
Like
not
that's
working
gonna
on Monday.
destroy your week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna destroy your week, right? So, and it's not like you can just throw money at it. Um, you really need to properly do your work, right? Until you figured out exactly what the MVP is, how you need to scale, then you can throw money at it to properly scale,
But
you
also
know?
realizing that when people say that they like the idea to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could mean anything. It
Mhm.
could really mean that they like it, or it could mean that they don't want to hurt your feelings in the meeting, and they are just saying these things. And the biggest sort of
Mhm.
thing that we got away from working early on in CoScore in those real estate businesses was
Yeah.
that people say all kinds of things until it's time to write a check or sign off
Yeah.
on the big purchase, right? And when we were
Mhm.
doing Connect, that took us about a year to drill into people's heads that like, hey, maybe you should ask an extra question, in the meeting to really validate that they're interested. And we were shut
Yeah.
off so many times.
Yeah. That was really unfortunate. What happened, because that company is meant to go places. Um, I don't know if they've lost their time now, meaning that they could have charged and they could have raised some good money. They could have been they could have been places right now. Um, I hope that time hasn't gone by, because I would like that company to be places, because we put so much
Yeah.
time and effort into it. We made a beautiful platform.
Was
Um,
yeah, just two of us, hey?
yeah, I'm
No,
pretty.
no, no, no tech department, no,
Yeah,
it's just you and
yeah,
me, just building out the whole thing from
exactly,
design
exactly.
to actual backends and cloud and front ends and infrastructure, everything just fell in
Yeah,
place. And yeah, I remember the early
because
mock-ups that we were like, okay, let us take care of that because that just
yeah,
didn't look like something I would love to associate my name with. But
yeah,
6 months of work and like we did it like just like we always did. We came through at the 11th hour and like
hmm
the platform was there to do. You know what I'm pissed most about this? And this is, I'm pissed at myself. I am not
hmm
necessarily as pissed at the team, and although I do have my negative taste in the mouth for
hmm
for everything that went down, but I was pissed at myself for not believing and standing by my words. And that,
right.
that's something that on paper looked good, really, really kind of like
It didn't translate,
tricked
right?
me. No, but what I'm
Yeah,
saying is what looked really good on paper made me
yeah,
believe that that was more important than how I truly feel based on 5 years of experience building startups. Like to me,
hmm
until the very last moment, I still thought maybe it's, maybe I'm misinterpreting or maybe I don't get all the,
hmm
have all the data at hand to make that judgment. But every time when, like you
right.
said, we were telling the team about how to fundraise and how to go about selling and what's the right way to promote features into a product, and we were shut off time and time again. I've pissed
Yeah,
at myself for not insisting enough to the point where I would say, you know what, I'm gonna leave and you can get somebody else to do it, which eventually what ended up happening, but it happened way too late.
yeah,
I mean, we gave them over 2 years to come, to that point where the patients ran out. I mean, I wish it was the first time I heard them say,
hmm
we need all this to go live, and like in reality, you only needed that little.
yeah,
I just didn't have
hmm
that enough confidence in me to really defend my position. Now I do. Now with
yeah,
CoSquare, it's my way or no way. It's really about relying on my gut first and foremost because of all these layers of failures and this experience that you
hmm
get layered up like a foundation. And but it wasn't there, even though all the signs were pointing at it
yeah.
eventually failing based on where it was going.
But at the same time, I feel like we made a really amazing product. Um, we did all the work that was supposed to be done. Like I think working with a team that was like one of the biggest teams we've worked with, um, and coming together without a proper tech team and whatnot. I think I'm pretty proud of what we did. Like we made a really good product, right? And I'll always hold that, but I learned to be way more confident. And yeah, I'll keep that for sure. Like that's a good learning.
Definitely. So what are you up to now, man? Tell me about Onlus and tell people that are listening or watching right now about what they should really know about this company.
Yeah, so Onlus is basically um, one of my friends came up to me and said that, hey, I work in a long-term care facility, and well, basically when COVID came out
Mhm.
and COVID was a big thing, a lot of senior homes, people were taking their friends and families out of senior homes because that's where COVID was really hitting. And my friend came up to me and said, "Hey, like, what can we do? Right? Is there any way we can get this started and get this going?" And um, me having a tech background, I wanted to figure out if there's any way we could bring tech into this because there is tech out there, yes, but there's no, but it's not. What's the word here? Um, it's not properly done. There's no data driven um, initiatives there just yet.
It's still
There's a lot of
1999 where there was a lot of opportunity to bring it into the modern age. That's what you're trying to say.
exactly
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. We can still do a lot,
yeah.
right? So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out a way to basically connect seniors or um, home healthcare patients with proper caregivers, whether it's PSWs, nurses, and whatnot, almost like an Uber model, where they can come in and request care, and we can find them the perfect caregiver for them.
And how's that going so
Yeah,
far? When did you start this, and what kind of traction have you seen so far?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, like we've had some good setbacks, and we've realized, hey, because it's COVID, not a lot of people want randoms in their house at the moment. So
True.
what can we do,
Yeah.
right? So then it came down to, okay, what else can we do? So right now it's we're trying to figure out ways to do non-contact, and we've gotten some good traction
Like
on grocery deliveries.
telecare over internet
Yeah,
and that. Okay.
yeah, exactly, and doing grocery deliveries or just checkups over the phone and
Okay.
just talking to people for mental health reasons, delivering medications from the pharmacist um, to even like cleaning, doing a little bit of homemaking when the senior isn't there or the patient isn't there at home, so we can go in and properly sanitize the place and you know um, fix medications, or if they need some food or whatever,
hmm
right? Like all that stuff can be done and it's non-contact, and that's what we're trying to work on right now, and we've got some pretty good
hmm
traction at the moment for that.
And you've been going at it
Yeah.
for what, 6 months, 8 months now?
No,
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 sorry. Yeah,
no.
yeah.
It's been like probably 3 months now,
Three
I would
months.
say.
Got
Yeah,
it.
because it's still December, so yeah, it's been three
Yeah,
months now.
yeah. No, it makes sense because
Um,
yeah, I started CoSquare in September or resumed working on CoSquare in September. So, you're building that business, I'm building this business. How are
yeah.
you approaching it this time differently from
hmm
all these previous startups that you've been involved in, built? What sort of things you're doing differently that because of the experience and
hmm
of course everything that that you're like, okay, this time we're doing it this other way and why?
Yeah. Um, Zero coding, no
Zero
tech.
coding. I was
Yeah,
hoping you'll say
no
that.
tech.
No.
Yeah.
So
Because
what?
a
It's
lot
on
of
it's
things
on
can
like
be
Excel
done.
spreadsheet and the email, pretty much until you
Yeah,
get solid traction on both sides.
yeah. It's Mailchimp and Google Sheets basically at the
Okay.
moment.
Okay.
Um, we're trying to make sure that we can get some good traction because again, like tech is all about scaling. You need to use tech to scale, right? And figure out exactly what the product is on a manual basis. And as soon as you can do that, the tech is so easy to build. Um, it shouldn't take you long to build a proper tech platform that you can integrate into your system. And um, this is the agile way. Like you already have your business running, you already have income coming in, revenue, and on the side, you're talking to your clients, you're talking to different patients, you're trying to figure out exactly what the needs are and what's the first technology or feature that we can bring in. And it's just the best way to go about it. Like there's no assuming here. People are telling you exactly what they want to pay for, and that's just the way to go about it.
Is it harder to do without any tech or without like an end products in the regulated industry like healthcare? Do you find that, say, you know, building a marketplace for food delivery, you know, improving that by just, you know, go pick up some food and drop it off to a person that's going to pay you, and then, you know, scale that with tech? Do you find that it's a bit different for you in healthcare or not really? Because I know a lot of people that are watching or listening right now
Yeah.
are probably in somewhat regulated industries, potentially, you know,
Yeah.
professional services marketplaces are popping up right now, accounting services, financial
Mhm.
services, you know, legal services, healthcare is no different. I'm just wondering what your assessments of the
Mhm.
situation so far.
It's so much. I feel like it just having the tech is the easy way out, but
Mm,
it'll hurt you in the long run. Um, you want to make it easier for your clients at first, even if it is taking you a couple hours more a day to do your work,
right.
right? Just so you can understand what these people are going through, so you can make the tech properly. It's so easy to kind of just shut everybody out and make the technology and feel like, you know, because you've made 5 features already, feel like you're moving places, but at the same time, like you're in the weeds and you feel like you're moving, but in the grand scheme of things, you're actually hurting yourself, right?
Right.
So
Because you're caught up in that illusion
regulated
that
or
you're
not,
making
yeah.
progress by building, not necessarily by customer acquisition. Makes
Hmm.
sense. Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like regulated or not, like again, business is about making money. Business is whatever you're doing, like you're in it to help people. You should just go out and help people and try to figure out exactly what their needs are, right? Even though if you've been through it and that's why you're starting the business because you've been through it, right? Um, you still need to talk to what 50 to 100 people, right? Um, to 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 basically figure out what needs to be done, what product needs to be made. Like still to this day, I don't know what product I need to make for Onlus,
Mm,
right? I have a lot of different ideas. I have like an entire list, and I'm like right now prioritizing them. Something that I thought would be number one right now is sitting at like number 10 because it's not a need, even though my co-founder has went through it, right? We started it because he went through it with his dad,
mhm.
right? And yeah, I mean, like, we don't know what we're building. It's as long as it's basically going out and talking to people and you know, just doing it on a manual basis,
Yeah.
right?
And with like COVID and
Yeah.
everything sort of in your way right now,
Hmm.
are you what kind of like how are you approaching these clients? Because like I assume you can't just roll up to them anymore and
Yeah, yeah,
you know, are you what platforms are you on? What
yeah.
marketing
Hmm.
are you doing? You know, is it
Yeah.
purely over the phone? How do you acquire, like how do you start those conversations, and like what kind of advice, you know, would you give to other people building businesses right now that
Yeah.
heavily rely on, you know, having 100 interviews, which is essentially the rule that we came up with very early on before you sort of build another new business or an idea, go through 100 interviews? What sort of advice can you give to people right now?
Hello.
Hey, sorry,
Hey.
man, I lost you there for like 10 seconds.
No worries, man. Okay, so what were you saying?
Yeah, I was asking you about, like, now that you're in COVID, how are you marketing, and more importantly, what kind of advice do you give to people that are trying to validate the idea? They're trying to talk to maybe about 100 people, which is the rule that we put in place. I remember when pursuing a new idea. So, like, how
Hmm.
do you get to your 100
Yeah.
people in the age of COVID, and what social media or other marketing channels you're using to do that?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, so Facebook has been really good to, there's a lot of groups out there like Moms for Moms type
Okay,
groups where they have these types of conversations, especially for home care. Um, like getting into a lot of different groups on Facebook. Um, WhatsApp has been really good for us as well,
interesting.
just because we're part of a community that like knows a lot of different people. So it's just reaching out to other people in our community that are taking care of seniors, so we can even talk to people who are even getting home care at the moment, right? And it doesn't matter if they're potential clients or they're already clients of somebody else. It's just a discovery phase at the moment. WhatsApp, Telegram, those two. Instagram is really good for caregivers. You just want to look more modern and cool and more techy because like younger caregivers that are coming in right now, or somebody under the age of 35, they're really looking for more tech based because um, a lot of mom and pops or even hospitals right now, they're stuck in the 1970s, 1980s, right? So just showing them that you're cooler is better. Um, we haven't 100% figured out how to reach out to patients yet, but we're on that path where where we're trying to we we've wasted a lot of time in trying to figure out how to reach out to the perfect market, but that's the entire point, right? Like it's it's coming up with an idea, going on, well, it's like sprints, right? So it's coming up with an idea, doing it for a week, and then kind of crossing it off if it didn't work. And then some ideas have worked for us, but we've moved on to see if there is any other idea that would work better, right? Because you just want to figure out like what's the most cost effective way, right? And if we're in the discovery stage, why not do this right now versus when you have investor money and they're expecting stuff out of you, right? So we don't mind spending like a couple more months trying to figure out, does something work better than something else, right? And I mean, going with Google Ads, right? Because you get like $100 free. YouTube gives you another $100 free. Um, I started my website on Squarespace because their SEO is amazing, and they also give you $100 free.
Hmm,
So that's $300 we can play with right there,
right.
completely for free. I think you have to put up like $25. So like eh, that's what, $75 together to get $300 free. Like it's so worth it to run a sprint
Makes
for like
sense.
a couple
Yeah.
months trying to figure out what would work, especially because it's we're so used to B2B, right? So and that's like on LinkedIn. It's so easy to reach out to people on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
right? But going B2C, especially during COVID when everybody's stuck at home, you need to now get scrappy and figure out different ways. And that's that's legit what we're doing right
Got it.
now. Yeah.
Michelle Romanoff called 2020 a year of TikTok.
The year of TikTok, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Hey, I mean, my fiance and I are doing pretty well on TikTok, getting hundreds of thousands of views.
Shit.
So we're pretty good.
For
TikTok
business
is
though.
really good. Yeah, for
No, no. I mean,
um,
yeah. So,
so that yes, TikTok is good. Um, not a lot of seniors on TikTok though. Not a lot of mom and dads on
got it.
TikTok, right? Instagram is really working out for us with caregivers. Would we ever move to TikTok? I don't know. Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to stretch myself out too thin with marketing because I personally need to figure out what products to bring in, what features to bring in. So going into every single social media, I don't think that's the way to go
So you're doing more of
right
a
now.
product management and some basic marketing, and your co-founder does most of the field work, right? Like actual
I
servicing or.
Yeah, so we've split it out into three main roles. Um, we have the patient side, so the intake of patients, the intake of caregivers, and then in the middle is all operations and the back office, right?
Mm,
And right now, I'm taking over the operations and back office because that's where I feel like you can really bring in the technology, right? Everything from scheduling to EVVs, which is electronic visit verifications, right? Just to check if people actually got there, to payment systems, accounting, blah, blah, blah. Like there's so much. That's where the tech can come in. So I've taken over the operations side. My co-founder has taken over the patients outreach and intake of patients and caregivers at the moment. But that's going to be kind of split up into two jobs. So we'll need to get probably quote unquote another co-founder
mm.
that will take over the the caregiver side of things.
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it makes sense, man. Listen, just have one more question for you. And this has been a
yeah,
crazy interview, but you recently got engaged.
yeah.
Congrats on that, man. How does that
Thank
change
you.
your perspective on life and the
Yeah.
timelines for making this successful? Um,
Um.
now that sort of
Yeah.
have other responsibilities.
We've taken so much risk in life, and now it's about taking more calculated risks in life. And um, like I said, I would never be able to do that whole thing we did in 2015, where it's just, work 100 hours a week, more than 100 hours a week. I can't do that anymore. I need to be a little bit more secure. So everything needs to be more calculated now, right? But I have an amazing fiance who supports me. So a timeline, I don't know. There's no like
Yeah, yeah,
huge timeline right now, as long as like, I can make sure I'm getting by. And that's pretty much it.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I understand the pressure. And honestly, like having somebody by your side that's it could go either way.
Hmm.
It could be either they're enabling you to really not worry
Yeah.
about the what do you call it, like the floor, and because they'll always be there to support you falling and they'll always pick you up, or it could go
Hmm.
another way where they are
Yeah.
making sure that they're basically trying to get you straight up and not thinking too big. So I've experienced both in my life. So I know how you feel,
Yeah.
man. Listen, we're definitely gonna show your girlfriend some love. Gonna link up her
Yeah.
TikTok or your TikTok or both of your TikToks. I also want to link up the Onlus website for anyone that's looking
Yeah.
for either a
Please.
caregiver or our caregivers and are trying to find extra hours here and there to
Mhm.
get by. And then listen, this is not an over exaggeration with me saying that I would not have or think of a better person
Yeah.
to kick off the 1:30 a.m. podcast with rather than you.
Oh my God.
I appreciate you coming out and sharing
No,
the story, and I'm looking forward to have you on again in a couple of
you,
months.
I, I want to be back. I hope this takes off so
Thank
I
you.
can come back, Yeah. Awesome.
Any last words or last statements that you want to make to the audience? Anybody that's an entrepreneurial starting out right
Hmm.
now, building a business,
Hmm.
probably fighting with their parents about getting a job or not getting a job, and sticking through their
Hmm.
entrepreneurial route. What's the piece of advice that you want them to take away from this? And we'll leave it at that.
Um, I would say just, build shit and break shit, but at the same time be methodical about it and know exactly what you're doing. Um, so make sure that it's going to be a hard road, like no matter what. Like people that are closest to you are going to doubt you, but at the same time, like you need to just keep your head down, reach out to enough people to make sure that you're building the business in the right way. Um, get enough support around you. So that support is probably going to be people in the industry that believe in what you're doing. And don't be afraid to fail and break shit. Like, there's enough people in the world. If you know your product is gonna do well, there's enough people in the world that will, buy your shit if the first batch doesn't work out. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. And for me, it's that for me, it's almost like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? Like you not
Exactly.
accepting that contract right now, or you sort of throwing away 3 years of your life just because you think you can build a successful business. What's the worst thing that can happen? There's always that contract 3 years from now. There's always that MBA course that you can take later in your life. What I'm saying is, you sort of accepting the fact that you've had your 120-hour weeks and they're kind of behind you now. Like, that's the experience that everybody needs to take. And so, I'd rather them have that experience now than, when they're 40.
Oh yeah, I highly recommend that. Know your limits. Yeah.
and then push them a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, man, this has been awesome. Appreciate your coming. Take care and love you, man. We'll be on again. All right, take care, man. Bye.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, bye.